I lost everything. My company, my family. I still don't understand what killed that deal.
He's lurking, and you act as if you don't care. You act as if it's not going to happen. He's killed before, and he's about to kill again.
I told you, they're called the 5 Fatalities. It's all in the sacred sales texts. The first fatality is timing. The Reaper sows a seed of doubt in the prospect's mind that solving a problem isn't a priority right now. Once other priorities are moved ahead of it, the deal turns to dust.
Harper, should you be reading that? What if the Reaper finds out?
You cannot consider a cure until you fully understand the disease. It is you, Harper, the one with a fascination of death. You hold the fate of sales in your hands.
All right, what is up, everyone? Happy Friday, October 20th. Welcome to the third Fatality Friday. Excited to kick this off with y'all. This is a weekly live stream here on LinkedIn where we speak to the harsh realities that are facing salespeople and what we can do as an industry to come together and fix some of these systemic problems that are plaguing this profession. For the folks that have been here for the last 3 weeks, y'all know we've had a lot of fun. Talked about some harsh truths, but have also learned a lot. So we're excited to have you all joining us. This series revolves around 2 things. The first is what we call the 5 fatalities, the 5 objections that are systematically killing your deals as sales reps and as sales leaders every single month. And the second is a glimpse of what you just saw. And if you've been following Scott, David, and I over the last number of weeks and the last couple of months, you'll know the Sales Reaper series. This is a first of its kind approach to sales enablement that weaves foundational sales training process into a fictional storyline and a narrative that depicts the struggles and the challenges and ideally the triumphs of salespeople as we navigate this crazy world that we're operating in, this crazy environment we're operating in. So we want to break down for you today the agenda before we do a couple of introductions. So the agenda for today, we're going to intro the folks that are on this call. We're missing the last piece of this puzzle. Jocelyn, she's out today, but she'll be back next week. We're going to talk through, Scott's going to talk through the problems that sales teams and sellers are facing in the environment that we live in today. We're going to break down the 5 fatalities. We're going to recap them based on the video that you just saw. Specifically today, we're going to focus on the competition fatality. Competition is a silent killer in a lot of conversations that you're having throughout your sales process, and we're going to tell you why, and we're going to also tell you how to counteract them. We're going to talk through the 3 milestones. These are the 3 checkpoints that every deal has to cross in order to proactively disarm these objections from crushing your pipeline and killing these deals. We're going to go through a free exercise after that. So we have a 3-part exercise that you all can do as individual contributors and as revenue leaders to audit what's happening in your pipeline, identify which of these fatalities are sinking your ability to convert opportunities throughout your sales stages, and also, again, be prescriptive about how you can counteract that stuff. We're going to give you access to that resource. We'll link it out in the chat. When we get to it, David's going to walk through it with you. And then we're going to break down the Sales Process Training Academy, which is our solution for companies, for leaders, for sales teams to figure out how to counteract this stuff and ensure that they have a much higher success rate on an individual level and also a team level, and how we can help salespeople take more control over their success, because that is the crux of so much of what it is that we talk about and so much of what it is that we train on. How do we empower individuals to get rid of the excuses around what's causing them to fail and take control over their ability to hit their targets and do it consistently? This is formulaic. This is process-oriented. This is actionable. This is not fluff. This is not sprinkling fairy dust on sales training to try to get you motivated and happy and excited. This is about giving you the tools, the strategy, and the process that you need in order to hit your numbers. Feel very passionately about that if you haven't noticed it already. So let's jump into an introduction to the folks that are on this call. And again, I left Jocelyn up there because she is an incredibly important part of our team. We are calling this collective, including you all that are here today, if you so choose, the collective of folks inside of this profession that are super passionate about helping lift the tides so that we have more people realizing more success earlier on in their sales career. So that's a combination of companies, that's a combination of individual contributors, that's a combination of sales leaders, folks cross-functionally in different departments on the go-to-market side that really want to lift up and empower salespeople to realize their fullest potential. David Bonney, I'll start with him. David is the mastermind, as we like to call the sales preacher, behind a lot of the content that you're going to be seeing throughout the Sales Reaper series. David is a longtime revenue leader, turned entrepreneur and sales consultant. Scott Leese, most of y'all know Scott. Scott is a 6-time VP of sales, 3 times founder. He scaled a ton of companies from 0 to north of 25 million in ARR, really focusing on how to operationalize a sales process within early stage companies. My name is Ryan Walker. I co-founded a community with Scott called GTM United, which is where a lot of this material and this effort stemmed from. And also I'm a longtime individual contributor and sales leader myself. So give you a breakdown of who's here today. Jocelyn is a excellent enterprise account executive who's been an IC for the overwhelming majority of her career and has realized a ton of success across a number of different verticals and industries. And again, she'll be back next week. I'm going to kick it over to Scott to talk about, frame up the problem that we are facing, the systemic problem that we're facing as an industry, and speak a little bit more to what we're going to do to resolve it.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. So everybody is aware that it's been a difficult economic climate, difficult for salespeople. We need to wake up, though, and take some accountability and some responsibility. We're looking at less than 30% of sellers expected to hit their full team quota this year. Closer to 25% lately is what I've been hearing. That's in stark contrast to historical numbers of the last 20 years, which were closer to 70%. Think about that drop off for a second. Absolutely catastrophic drop off, right? And why is this happening? Well, Ryan, can you move to the next slide? You got no plan to hit the goal, number one. It's just all improvised. It's not systematic. It's not scalable whatsoever. There's no coaching. There's no training. Reps are working remotely, scattered around on their own, trying to come up with anything that they can do to build pipeline and get deals over the line. But it's just not being taught in any kind of systemic way. You've got huge execution gaps, critical execution gaps. This could be everything from going after the wrong targets, not really locking in your ICP, to skipping steps in the sales process, to not recognizing when competition is jumping in, to not knowing if somebody's at the right time, in their buying cycle and in their process, and lack of improvement. What are we doing as sellers to take accountability for our own growth, our own skill set improvement, leveling ourselves up? If it's not being offered by the company, not being offered by our boss, what are we doing? What can we do? And that's one of the things that we're trying to fix, is to give people access to a new type of sales training that's a little bit more entertaining, let's say, than some of the old school trainings that have been around for a very long time. But you can't get into any of the solutions until you really understand the problem, right? This is Fitz. He's a character from the Sales Reaper series. This is the version of Fitz that is like old man Scott Leese right here with my Pray for Surf hat on.
There's only one version.
How old then?
There's a few different versions of Fitz. Yesterday's was, I think, David's version of Fitz in episode 3.
Scott thinks we look alike, guys. I think. What do y'all think? You think Scott and I look alike with the beard?
It's kind of like if you merge the two of us a little bit. But you can't consider the cure until you fully understand the disease. So that's where we like to begin, is what are the problems that are plaguing sellers worldwide? And we've kind of narrowed it down to what we call the 5 fatalities. 5 key reasons that we've all encountered. I told a story earlier this week. The 3 of us held a webinar, an international webinar for folks in EMEA. There was 500 or so people who were there. And I told a story about how myself and my team, who were going through a fundraising process, screwed this up. And we got beat by each of these 5 fatalities a little bit and lost a $30 million raise and had to start over from scratch. Super painful lesson, and one that I think everybody can relate to at some point, regardless of whether it was a $30 million deal or a $30 deal. We've all encountered troubles with these 5 fatalities. All right. So we're going to get into those 5 fatalities in just a second here. David's going to walk us through it. Ryan, I think this is you right here, though.
First and foremost, y'all, we're going to walk through the frame up for what David's about to jump into with the first full episode of the Sales Reaper series.
Harper, they need your gift. Will you join the fight?
Have you updated CRM today? Remember, cross-organizational communication is the key to stakeholder engagement. The Council of CROs thanks you for your cooperation.
Are your company's sales results not where you want them? That's okay. The economy will improve, and so will your conversion. No need to change anything you're currently doing. This message is approved by the Council of CROs.
What in the hell are they talking about? Everything is definitely not okay.
Harper, I'm grateful you came. I hate to have to say this, but his power is growing out of control. It's no longer just about deals dying. There are mass layoffs, livelihoods, and entire companies in ruin. Entire revenue streams are vanishing. It's an epidemic of despair, and the heart of commerce is bleeding out.
I lost to him, Fitz, over and over again. I don't understand why you think I would be any help. You said you have the sacred sales texts. Aren't those enough?
The situation has changed. There are more forces at play. The Council of CROs is not who they appear to be. I believe they are actively encouraging salespeople not to improve, causing more deals to die at an accelerated rate.
No need to change anything you're currently doing.
We're reaching a breaking point. The closer sales gets to its demise, the more power the Council will seize in the aftermath. We are doing our best to fight back, but we don't understand how to consistently keep salespeople from breaking the code and digging their own graves.
And I'm supposed to help how? How is my gift supposed to stop any of this from happening?
You cannot begin to consider a cure until you understand the disease. I know you've heard the whispers at night, just as I have.
Harper.
We are being called to fight back. It is you, Harper, the one with a fascination of death. You hold the fate of sales in your hands.
This seems impossible. Where would we even start?
We start with the 3 milestones. These are the building blocks to increase conversion for sales teams and create the needed improvement to defeat the fatalities for good. By rallying the leaders who want to break free of the Council's tyranny, we can dissect their sales process, pinpoint the fatalities killing their deals, and help them build a plan to attack them head-on. The clock is ticking, Harper. We need to get started before the year is in complete ruin.
Yeah.
Clock's ticking. All right, guys. So going back to what Scott said, I mean, here's the reality. Our eternal optimism as salespeople is what keeps us in the profession. It's what gives us a chance to continue the fight to get to levels, the ability to be able to hit our quota. We all know that. But most of the time, what doesn't happen is in that optimistic environment, publicly speaking, it can be difficult to talk about the reality that we deal with. And that's why I love that Scott was strong enough and confident enough to say, guys, I lost a $30 million deal. I mean, Scott, how many nights of sleep did you lose after that went down?
Weeks.
Right?
Literally weeks, because if you've gone through the fundraising process, you're trying to thread the needle sometimes between how much cash you have in the bank and when you're pulling in new money to keep everything going. So it was brutal, a brutal 2-week period.
I mean, guys, this is the reality at some level, right? I know all of you guys have experienced it. You got that email and that feeling in the pit of your stomach, right? Or you didn't get that response back and you realized how long it had been, that it had been 12, 24, 36 hours, and you got that feeling in your stomach, that nauseous feeling of like, dude, holy hell, this is awful. Like you want to puke, right? The vast majority of roles in business they don't deal with this level of stress and this level of pressure, but we're all going through it. And what we want to be able to do is normalize the fact that we all are going through this, and we all know that we're all going through this, but we don't have to. We can start to prevent this stuff from happening if we just make the decision to start taking control over our process. And just like Scott said, the first step in doing that is to be able to understand what is it that is actually causing that to happen. Why are our deals actually dying? Because from there, then we can start to stop it, right? It was just like Ryan and I were talking yesterday about Mortal Kombat. Y'all remember that? Sub-Zero, right? Scorpion, get over here, right? The fatalities, right? Like, dude, if you didn't know how to play that game, you were getting wrecked at the arcade, right? But as soon as you knew how to play it, right, and you were going against whoever the hell, I don't even remember all the names out, but if you were going up against Sub-Zero, as soon as he threw that ice at you, you knew exactly how to block it, right? You knew exactly what to do and then how to counter it. Like we have to understand, as soon as we can understand the Reaper's moves, once we can understand how he's trying to kill our deals, then we can block them, then we can counter them. And that's what this is all about. So we're going to go through these as the foundation of what it's going to take. The solution doesn't matter if it's not solving the actual problems, causing the outcome that we're trying to avoid. All right, first fatality, timing. Okay, this is the biggest fatality. This fatality kills more deals based on all the data that we have on the guide from the guided selling technology that we leverage. This fatality kills more deals than any other. Okay, and timing is a belief that it's not the right time to invest or that other priorities take precedence. We're going to say this throughout. In the absence of information, your prospects make up their own. So when you don't get clear on this crap, they make up their own definition. You're misaligned on what the hell's going on, and you don't know what is happening. We got to figure this stuff out, and we need a repeatable process to figure this out. All right, fatality 2. Competition. Competition is a perceived superiority of another option's speed, pricing, or feature set. Now, this is the hidden fatality. This is the silent fatality. We're going to talk about this more in a little bit, but this is not really what you guys think it is. All right, next one. Price. Prospects may feel that our offering is too expensive or beyond their budget. In comparison to what? What does that mean? In comparison to the competition? That's a price word on the bottom. That's a constant discounting strategy that proves to your prospects your product isn't worth what it is that you're asking. That crap doesn't work, guys. Those days that never work. But those days are definitely dead. All right, next one. Product fit. Your offering doesn't meet their perceived needs or solve their problems. Going back to the competition, the silent killer. Most people think you lose deals to the competition, to other competitive companies in your space. You're not losing to them. Product fit is keeping you from closing them. They think another solution is a better fit to solve the problems that you did not get aligned on with them. This is why you're losing those deals. You're not losing it to the competition. You lost it yourself. Or it's because of the next fatality. Trust, skepticism about the salesperson or the company's credibility. They don't want to be our guinea pigs. They don't want to be the ones that we're trying to figure this out with. Can they actually trust that our company knows what they're doing? And can we as sellers put them through a process that shows them our company knows what the hell they're doing? There was a David C. Baker. He had this awesome saying. It was at an event earlier this week. He said, sales is the sample for a lot of organizations, for a lot of solutions. Your sales process is the sample that your potential buyers can go through and taste and get their hands on to give them an understanding if they want the full meal. And y'all are out there just trying to court them. Just come on, be with me. Just be with me. It's not a sample of what they're going to get, of how we're going to help them solve their problems. That's not a partnership. Date, doctor visit. We talk about it all the time, guys, and we'll go deeper into this. We're not courting our prospects. We're doctors. We're trying to help them solve their problems. And the sales process is just the beginning of the entire fulfillment process. It's not separate. It's all in line. All right.
DB, so last week we talked a ton about timing. And for those folks that didn't get a chance to check out the Sales Reaper episode, make sure that you go to Scott's LinkedIn profile and see the previous videos. But as I mentioned at the top of the call, the reason that we wanted to create this Sales Reaper series was to cut through a lot of the noise that exists with traditional methods of getting this type of content in front of salespeople and to actually have them retain it and understand it at the same time. If you go through the first episode, you're going to see how timing impacts a real life example within the story. This week, we're going to talk about competition. And over the next number of weeks, we're going to go through each individual fatality. We're going to end the series with a Q&A before we kick things back off. But today, we're going to focus on competition. The way that David framed up competition as sort of a silent killer is super, super important, because a lot of times competition is perceived, and the deals that you're losing in competition is perceived as some other company has beat me on price for discounting or better service alignment or better feature set. The reality is the overwhelming majority of deals that you are losing to competition is actually due to the fact that you are not able, as a seller, to effectively set up a conversation that allows the prospect to understand that they have, whether or not they have the internal resources to actually do this and solve this problem themselves. So we're going to kick it off to show the next episode of the Sales Reaper that really personifies this fatality, and then David's going to break it down a little bit further.
Fear the Reaper.
They took our proposal, our entire creative plan, and decided to hire a team and do all of the work in-house. There must be some kind of legal action we can take against them.
Why? Because you didn't properly assess if they really needed outside help to begin with? Fitz and Harper have laid out the playbook 100 times. You just refuse to implement it for some godforsaken reason.
Fitz, we've reverse engineered the next fatality, competition, and it's actually not connected to Milestone 3 like we always thought. We figured out it's directly aligned to Milestone 2. Do they need outside help to solve their problems? There's a hidden cause of death the Reaper leverages to silently kill deals with this fatality. Our prospects rarely tell us about it, so we never considered it before. The hidden cause is them choosing to use internal or existing resources and scrap going with a new solution altogether.
Of course. So you're saying companies may be past milestone 1, but the fastest way for them to take action is to use the team, tools, or vendor they already have in place. This is excellent work, Harper. I will call a meeting this afternoon so we can begin briefing the rest of the syndicate.
The Reaper is using something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's a specific overconfidence of people who are unskilled at a particular task. Our misstep is when we don't establish a clear gap in a prospect's existing set of resources and ability. We're documenting the set of questions that can be consistently asked, so you all can move more prospects past milestone 2 and keep them from dying at the hands of this fatality. We'll finalize the progression pathway and train everyone on it as soon as possible.
I heard both of her parents died when she was young. She's had a fascination with death ever since, studying it, trying to reverse engineer why it happens so she can stop it from happening to anyone she cares about ever again. This is why Fitz picked her. This is why she's here.
I'm going to reiterate this to everyone. When we gather to learn progression pathways to help you bypass the Reaper's fatalities, we are not gathering so we can feel better about ourselves. Some of you will listen to this. The training will make you feel like you're developing your skill set, but we must put it into action if we have any chance of defeating the Reaper. He grows stronger with every sales conversation that has no structure, no end goal, no way of assuring the 3 milestones are hit and the code of commerce is upheld. We must not be reckless and add to his power.
Me?
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Let's go. All right. So Scott asked the question in the chat, wondering which of the 5 fatalities sticks out the most, guys. The key to this thing is, we want to be able to go through this thing every single Friday, and ultimately we care about the community. We care about you guys. So you guys come here and listen in, and you've got the opportunity to ask us as many questions as you need to. We are here to support you guys. Scott, he's going to drop he just dropped in the link so you guys can get the post-mortem sheet that will allow you to not just see the 5 fatalities, but it has a decision tree in it that allows you to figure out which of the fatalities are actually killing most of your deals, whether it's over a 30-day period or 60-day period, whatever it is that you choose. So go ahead and grab that. So, all right. So the key to this, guys, that you saw in the video is the competition, like Ryan said, that the vast majority of sellers aren't considering as the internal resources and the existing tools and vendors that our clients already have at their disposal. If we get to that emotion, right? If we get them emotional to want to take action, because that's what drives people to action is emotion, right? They reinforce it with logic, but emotion drives them into action. If we can tap into that emotion, we now have created a new potential problem for them. We're going to drive them into action utilizing the existing resources that they already have. And the problem with that is if they could have solved it, they would have solved it already. So we're literally leading them right to the definition of insanity, using the same resources, thinking that they're going to get somehow a different result. I don't care if they partner with YouTube or ChatGPT or or Google, whatever it is that they do. It's not going to work. They are incompetent in the areas that they are experiencing the most pain. Okay, we have to understand that. All right. So the examples of this are just like the video said, right? Maybe that means that they're going to take your proposal and throw it over to their existing team. And I can't reinforce this stuff enough, guys. Like we've seen it in sales processes for our own company, and we've seen it in call reviews. Like that people are sometimes on calls and they feel threatened. Existing team members feel threatened by your very presence because you were on there to solve a problem that they feel they were supposed to solve. And they're going to be in the shadows trying to talk their company out of actually using you. You got to be careful of that. If it's not the existing team, maybe they choose to stay with their existing piece of software, right? The fastest way to take action is to figure out how to make the existing tool do what it needs to do. Who here knows about Zapier? I'm sure there's a Zap for that, right, Scott? Like, you can zap that. We put a man on the moon, so they say. We can zap that. I'm sure, right? No, you freaking can't. If you coulda, you woulda, right? Or maybe it's their existing vendor, right? They take that proposal and they're like, dude, can you guys do this? And they give it to them to go execute, because the devil they know is better than the devil that they don't. Because we have to realize that our prospects, like I just said, they are incompetent in these areas, guys. And this incompetence leads them to make poor decisions. Now, from a buyer psychology perspective, Ryan's got it up on the screen now. From buyer psychology perspective, this already has a name. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And what the Dunning-Kruger effect says is the unskilled person thinks they are wise. You guys ever heard, I know just enough to be dangerous? That's not dangerous in a good way, guys. I know enough to screw this thing up because I don't know where I'm going to get it wrong. And I've got a false sense of confidence. It's going to cause me to go in there and make a mess of this thing, right? So if we aren't able to help our prospects get clear on why their existing resources have not already been adequate enough to solve the problems, then we lead them to believe that they somehow can be. And like I said, if they coulda, they woulda. They coulda, they woulda. Okay? Because their current resources can't solve the actual problems causing their pain, and that's why they're spending their time and energy with you. But most sellers don't have a repeatable process or a repeatable set of questions, we call them progression pathways, right? To be able to actually understand this either way. If the resources are good, great, right? Like in some industries, it's like, yeah, no, my boss just told me I need to get 3 more bids, or I need to get 3 more quotes, or I need to get 3 more prices. Our existing vendor's fine. We're just looking to see what else is out there. Great. I need to know that. Like, let's talk about that. Let's have that conversation. Because if I can discover that and disqualify, we don't really get into bid wars. If you guys are good with your existing vendor, that's great. Or you can crack open the conversation and really see if they are good with them, right? But if our process can help them, if we can have that conversation with them and help them to be wise about the lack of ability in their existing resources to solve the problem, then they're left alone and they need a new solution, right? They're past milestone 1, I got to take action and I need new and outside help. And now they can actually focus. Instead of us pitching our solutions to prospects that never intend to choose a new solution, wasting everyone's time, we can now get really, really focused. I don't think you guys understand the number of times that you guys are pitching your solution and your prospects are actually sitting there saying, oh man, this seems like it's going to be expensive. Do we really need to deal with this? Let's just maybe push this to Q1 or Q2. I don't know if we really need to do this. Or they're listening to your proposal and they're like, dude, I wonder if Ryan and Scott can just get this done. I mean, this doesn't seem that hard. If I throw this over to them, I wonder if they can take care of it. When they're asking those questions, they're not paying attention to you. You do not have their attention. Great demonstration is set up. Great demos is set up by good discovery and good diagnosis that crosses these milestones and cancels out these potential issues.
DB,
yeah,
you talked about so the example in the episode that we just showed where the 2 British folks are at the airport talking about how they lost a deal because the prospect decided to take their proposal and put it into action themselves. That for me solicited a pretty visceral reaction, similar to what Scott was talking about, losing his $30 million fundraise. That came from a real life story that obviously anonymized, a real life story that you had experienced with somebody, right? The fact that came from a real story, I think shines through. And I felt it the first time I watched it, but these are things that could devastate the ability for somebody to keep their company alive, let alone, hold them back from closing an individual deal. So, I thought the fact that was actually rooted in a real story was super, super powerful.
Yeah. So, and just to give you guys just a little glimpse, I'm obviously not going to name names, but it was with an existing client, big ticket prices, small sales team. The VP was actively a part of the sales process. And it was with an existing client. And because it was with an existing client that they had already done work with before, he completely skipped the process that we had for new customer acquisition. It's like, we're good on all this. Goes over to England, literally, and has conversations with everybody, thinks everything is all good. It's a 7-figure deal. He comes back and he gets the email. And they were honest because there was enough of a relationship there. But he was honest. Hey, we're gonna outsource this, man. Or no, actually, he said we're gonna hire people in. We're not gonna outsource this. I mean, it was brutal. It was brutal. I mean, this deal was so critical to the revenue projections for this business. I mean, it was just so tough. You know, I remember just talking to him. I'm walking around my backyard. I'm just talking to him. He's just poor. He's just like, dude, I don't know why I didn't confirm that before. Right? It's that feeling in the pit of our stomach, guys. And we all freaking have it. And we can avoid this stuff if we just go through the steps to figure this information out beforehand, before it ends up nipping the deal in the bud and killing it altogether. It doesn't have to end up that way for anybody, guys.
Oh, and like, I think we've for the lack of a better phrase, twisted the knife here on making a point. We talked about the problem. Last week, we talked about timing and how that could show up in the sales process. Now let's talk a little bit about the solution. Scott, I know you want to walk through the milestones. But just to frame it up, in order to counteract these fatalities and to proactively disarm them from, again, even surfacing in the first place, you have to be prescriptive in your sales process, and you need to be proactive about collecting the right information at critical junctures that progress prospects towards a confident, informed decision. And if you're not doing that in sequential order, if you're not asking the right information, asking the right questions, collect the right information at specific times, you are drifting farther and farther away from a codified process that gets these fatalities disarmed, and you're getting closer and closer to winging it, which loses so much control throughout the conversation and really is a disservice to the people that you are employed to serve. So Scott's going to walk through what we call these 3 milestones, the 3 checkpoints that every single deal must cross in order to ensure that they're not killed off by these fatalities. Each milestone is designed to address these specific fatalities and to provide prescriptive solutions. And the success of your pipeline, your deals, rely on your ability to navigate these milestones with your customers on every single conversation. Because even when you have confidence that it's in the bag, or oh, I already have such a strong relationship with these folks that I don't need to check these boxes, you are wrong. And that story that David just told is a prime example of that. So Scott, you want to talk through 3 milestones? Start with the first one.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go to milestone number 1. And by the way, you need to really make sure that you pass these milestones, not just get close to it. So here's an example. Milestone 1 is, must somebody take action? One of the things that sellers do all the time is you're trying to identify pain, right? And then you're trying to quantify pain. How many times have you pointed out to a prospect and got them to tell you, yeah, I agree, like this is $1 million problem? We hear this, $1 million problem from the prospect, and we think to ourselves, oh, they're going to buy for sure now. Who would ignore $1 million problem? Well, guess what? If a company has a list of 100 $10 million problems, your little measly $1 million problem means absolutely nothing to them. Your tiny little startup, if you had $1 million problem, it might be drop everything, everybody stop what they're doing, and we're going to solve this right now. If we go to Apple right now and said, hey, we've identified $1 million problem, they would kick us out of the building for being annoying. They don't care about $1 million problem. They operate in $1 billion problems. So your first milestone is, must somebody take action? You got to know that the problem is causing enough pain that gives them urgency to take action straight away. So one of the things you want to do is you get them to admit they've got this $1 million problem. You can ask questions like, hey, where does this fall on your list of priorities compared to all the other problems that you're dealing with? And we've got to ensure that it is at the top or at least second place, or somebody's not going to feel like they need to take action straight away. So don't be fooled with milestone number 1. Really make sure that somebody must take action. Milestone number 2. How many times have you lost a deal because somebody has essentially just said or decided, I think we can do this on our own? Does that ever happen to you? It happens to me all the time. This is one that I deal with all the time. What do? I work with startups. I help them try to grow, build, scale. go-to-market strategies and playbooks and build like a repeatable process. You know what I hear sometimes? Well, I think we're going to do this ourselves. And I'm like, okay, how come you haven't done it so far? And what makes you think that you're going to be able to sort it out yourself now moving forward? This is what they're trying to figure out. They understand now that they have to take action urgently to solve the problem, but who is in charge? Who are they going to turn to? Can they do it on their own, or do they need you? Do they need your help? Right? So milestone 2 is you're trying to determine if their current resources. Okay, I'm still on milestone 2, Ryan.
Dude, I'm emceeing. Yeah, just skipping ahead.
All right. Determine if their current resources are sufficient in solving the problem without outside help. One of the things that I ask people sometimes is, once you're aware of this, there's 3 little questions. Do you have the time to deal with this yourself? Do you have the bandwidth? Can you actually get it done? Do you have the interest in solving this problem yourself? There's a lot of things that are problematic that I have no interest in dealing with myself.
Like me.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to deal with that myself. I got busted this and busted that in my house. I got the time to deal with it, but guess what? I really have no interest in dealing with it myself. And number 3 would be, do you have the expertise? Do I even know how? Or if I just go try to fix this thing, am I going to break it and make it worse? So this is milestone 2. Does somebody need external help? And then after milestone 2, do they need external help becomes, why should they pick you? Because milestone 3 is, do we have the best solution? Are we somebody's best option? How do we determine if our solution clearly solves the bigger problems causing the most pain? Why you and not somebody else? Why you and not the 40 million other B2B SaaS MarTech solutions that y'all are selling every single day? Those are the 3 milestones. Okay. You've got, must they take action? Must they seek external help? And do we have the best solution? Should they pick us? Why should they pick us? You've got to go through all 3 of those milestones. I'll take you back over to, I think, Ryan on this part right
here. Yeah. And DB, you wanted to talk a little bit about the doctor versus date, which I know is something that we've been beating the drum on for a long time because it is critically important. And actually pretty counterintuitive to how a lot of salespeople are operating in conversations with prospects now. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. So guys, just like Scott was saying, I want you guys to understand, we do a lot of fractional work with companies, right? Like we've moved past the point where we are working with an individual company trying to help them grow. Now it's like there are several companies that we're doing fractional work for at any given point. So we're trying to install this stuff with a lot of different teams. And the one thing that we have learned, guys, is that sales success is actually in the margins. Like it comes down to you converting the sales and the prospects that you should be converting. It's not about getting those crazy people that are out there pushing back against you and they're, yelling at you, telling you to, never call them again. Who cares about, like, those people don't matter. Your ability to crush your quota comes in with the people that should be crossing these milestones, but they're not, because we're not asking the right questions consistently throughout a process and then optimizing our process to improve it so we can get more people past it. Now, the date versus doctor visit analogy is key because so often it's like, so what's their budget? Oh, they'll never give me budget, David. Yeah, right. They're never going to give you budget, dude. They're going to give me budget every single time. I'm either going to get a budget number or I'm going to get a budget multiple that I'm going to back up against ROI that we're all going to be on the same page on, which is essentially the same freaking number. But what happens is you guys enter into the sales process like you're trying to court your prospects and they're sick. They want our help. They don't want our affection. They don't want to be in a relationship with us. They want a treatment plan so they can feel better. You guys have been to a doctor, I'm sure, where you can just feel they're pushing pills on you or they're trying to push on a surgery, or it just feels like they've got their own ulterior motive and they're trying to get you to do that thing. You don't trust them, right? We're not talking about those doctors. We're talking about the actual doctors that come in, they're going to sit you down, they're going to diagnose what's going on, they're going to ask you questions, and you're going to answer them. If you went out on a date, okay, for those of you that are married, just act like you're single. Just envision that real quick. If you were back out on the dating scene and you went on a date and you sat down and the first question that person asked you is, so David, do you have health insurance? What kind? You'd be like,
what's the deductible?
What? Like we say this stuff all the time, right? Like if you guys have ever seen Along Came Polly, like, are you doing a risk analysis on me? Like, are you trying to figure out if I'm a responsible adult by asking me if I have freaking health insurance? Like, this is none of your business, dude. Like, are we going to sit and have some drinks and an appetizer or not? If you keep asking these questions, this isn't going to go very far at all, okay? Now, what happens in the different frame, if you guys walk into a doctor's office and the first question they ask you is, do you have health insurance? What is your answer going to be? Yes or no. You're not going to blink. You're going to answer the freaking question. You're going to tell them exactly who your healthcare provider is, and you're potentially going to give them your insurance card. Your prospects don't want to give you this information because you're setting the wrong frame. You're creating the wrong environment because you're too busy trying to hit your quota instead of focusing on helping people achieve the outcomes that they want to help. Because all the other sellers out there are trying to hit their quota, they're going to look at you like you're a breath of fresh air. Holy crap, I'm actually talking to somebody that's going to help me. Great. And then they're going to tell their friends about you. Or when they are ready, if they're not ready, then they're going to come back to you. And then what you're going to do is you're going to discover and disqualify them potentially early on in the process, and they're going to be okay with that because it's not the right time, right? They have billion-dollar problems, not million-dollar problems. Then you're going to go find the company that has a top 3 problem that you can help them solve. Instead of worrying about having all these people in your pipeline that aren't ever going to close, and then your pipeline melts like frothy lava.
BB, being liked is a byproduct of doing your job well. And by doing your job well, it's approaching it as a doctor rather than a date. Like leading with wanting to be liked will only hurt you. If you do your job well as a salesperson and you are prescriptive about what they need to do in order to solve the problems that are holding them back from the outcomes that they are trying to achieve, they will like you. And if they don't, they'll at least excuse my language, they'll at least pay you. They'll at least work with you and your company because you've appropriately positioned yourself as the trusted advisor that they need to get to the other side of the problem that's holding them back from what they're trying to do. So please, if you take one thing away from this conversation today, realize that you are in a position to help prospects realize these outcomes if you approach this as a doctor rather than a date.
All right. So that now leads us into the postmortem, right?
Yeah. Let's break down.
If you guys go ahead, right?
Now we're going to break down the 3 components of the exercises that we have for individual contributors and for leaders so that you can effectively diagnose which fatalities are breaking down your pipeline and then logically figure out what you need to do in order to counteract them. So DBL, you can start with the fatality tree.
Yeah. So guys, Scott put this link in the chat. We can drop it in there again if you guys need it. Just let us know. But this is the exercise that's going to allow you to start to triangulate for your own development. Right? Just like we said earlier, guys, you don't need anybody to help you along. Nobody's going to save you. I love that saying. I have to tell myself that multiple times. Right? We just think that there's going to be some magical force that somehow is going to whoosh us up and get us to the position that we want in life. Nobody is going to save us. They're going to be there to help us, but we have to do the freaking work, okay? And that's what this is going to allow all of you guys to do. It doesn't matter if your manager knows what your issue is or not. If they have the skills and knowledge to actually really pinpoint it at this level. It doesn't matter if they're not investing in you to go figure that out. And they're just the type of manager that's going to put you on a PIP. It doesn't matter if your manager is the CEO and they don't have a lot of time. to spend with you. We're going to give you guys the resources so you can go through and figure this stuff out. Okay, so essentially what this exercise is step one, you understand how the fatalities connect to the milestones. Okay, now the key with that is the only reason why the fatality is happening is because we have to understand that one of the milestones was not passed. So we've got the fatality decision tree here to help you guys. And you basically take your deals, right, for the last 30 or 60 days, put all the deals that you dropped into close lost, and you start to think through, to the best of your knowledge, not what they told you. I don't care that they told you it was too expensive. I don't care. I don't care whatever they rationale to get you off the phone, right? Or to get you to stop emailing them. I don't care. To the best of your knowledge, what is the thing that actually upended the sale? Did they actually need to take action or not? Do you believe they're actually going to take action in some way, shape, or form on this thing? Okay. Now from there, you have to go down through and continue to go yes or no. And that yes or no decision tree will allow you to see which milestone is not being passed and which fatality is primarily responsible for it. So then we go over to the postmortem sheet and boom, we hit it. Jackson Trading, Price, Humboldt, Competition. And then we start to get our tally of fatalities on columns D and E. And that'll start to give you a very clear understanding. Competition and Price are killing my deals, as an example. And then when we look at the sales postmortem sheet, if you want to go to the next slide, it'll actually start to tell you, okay, if these are the fatalities, yeah, there you go. With the fatalities on the left-hand side, you put in those aggregate numbers. Here are the milestone that's being missed. Here are the areas of my conversation that I need to get better at executing on. For example, if price is an issue, we're not doing a good job calculating ROI. There's a bunch of different definitions to calculate ROI, guys. It's so funny. I talk about that stuff all the time with sales trainers, companies. Oh, yeah, we calculate ROI, and then they take me through the process. I'm like, what? That is not a return on an investment of a solution that's going to solve a set of problems. That number is completely irrelevant. That's a goal, right? Oh, yeah, the ROI, if they just close one deal, they'll make $1.1 million. It's not an ROI calculation. That's hope. Like, what the hell is that? That's like, right? Like, we're not effective in that area, and we can focus there and we can get better in that area. Okay. All right, Ryan, do you want to? Now, once we understand that, once we understand what is actually going on, then we can solve it, guys. And it's a little bit of a heartfelt recount that I'm going to give you here, guys. As a sales trainer, I hop on calls with teams, with organizations, with large groups all the time. And early on, it's like, David, I'm having this problem, blah, 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 blah. The company doesn't trust me because our company is messed up on fulfillment with other people and blah, 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 right? It's like, I know you think that's the problem right now, but that doesn't sound to me like the problem. And I have to ask a set of 5 to 7 questions, and then we can actually narrow it down. But the reason why I say that is because so many salespeople are spinning their freaking wheels, solving the wrong problems, which causes you essentially to run in sand. When you solve the wrong problems, you can go solve that, but it doesn't change the outcomes. What's the I'm terrible with quotes. Abraham Lincoln quote is like, if I had 6 hours to chop wood, I would spend the first 5 sharpening my axe. Spend more time figuring out what the real freaking problem is and less time randomly diagnosing stuff and then going to find the next bit of training. Okay, this part is so critical, and we think that this is such a huge piece missing from it. Want to go through step 3, Ryan?
Yeah, so this is something that David and I do on a weekly basis. It's a 2-on-1 conversation with sales leaders to help them identify where these funnels are breaking down across the entirety of their team. Call this sales process autopsy, and these are incredibly productive conversations. We try to keep them as concise as possible. We then leave you with a prescriptive diagnosis about where things are getting tripped up, but also a plan of action for what you need to do in order to solve it. So if you check the QR code, top left, sales leaders, this is where you can actually scan and book a time. With David and I, we have a couple slots on each day open, and that all leads up to, so make sure that you book this. If you're an individual contributor and you've gotten value out of this stream and you've gotten value out of the content that we've talked through, send this link to your leader or DM myself, David, or Scott, and we will send you the link directly. But these are conversations that we have on a daily basis with sales leaders to help them identify where things are breaking down. And we go through the exercises that we just, David just ran through with you. So this is all leading up to the last week of October. So David already talked about this. What we're looking to do is convert a higher percentage of the deals that you should be winning. You're not going to win every deal. You're not going to magically overcome objections for bad fit deals that actually don't need your help or are not ready to take action. But you should be converting a higher percentage of the low-hanging fruit that you are missing out on every single month. Every single one of us on this call, David, myself, and Scott have been in sales leadership positions where we have seen teams lose deals, countless deals that could have gotten to target for an individual level and then aggregate on the team level that should have been won, but we got in our own way. So that is the ultimate goal that David talked about. We are converting a higher percentage of the opportunities that we should be closing. Stop shooting yourself in the foot. Stop worrying about that person that screamed at you and was irrational and talked about all of the stuff that they want to do, but ghosted you and didn't actually have any intent to buy. Focus on the people that actually need your help and convert a higher percentage of those individuals. You have to have a codified process, and you have to identify where your current process is either non-existent or it is breaking down. And that's where we're going to help you. This is all leading up to starting the week of October 30th. We are launching a company-based cohort for the Sales Process Training Academy, which is your opportunity as a team and your opportunity as a leader to put your reps in a position to understand this content, consume this content, retain this content, build a process and an individual sales funnel that will ensure that they have way more control over hitting their target than they did before. And we're also going to have a lot of fun while we do it. So make sure that you book one of those sales autopsy calls, and we can talk about next steps in terms of getting you involved in that cohort. We only have a few slots left. This is the first we're doing of this, and we've gotten a ton of excitement from companies. But if you're an IC or if you're a leader, want to learn more about this, make sure you book an autopsy call. All right. We're at time. We've collected all the questions that y'all put into the chat. If there's individual questions you want to follow up with us on, we're super responsive. If you know anything about Scott, he will obviously get back to you. But we have a lot of fun. I see people scanning the QR code, which is awesome. We have a lot of fun in these conversations. We have a lot of fun on the stream. Know every single week on Friday, 9 a.m. Central, we are doing Fatality Fridays. We're going to continue to progress through each individual fatality. We have a big announcement that's coming up on Halloween in conjunction with us launching this cohort. And there's a lot more content coming your way, specifically around all of the fatalities and the milestones that we've been talking about. So y'all, we'll see you next week. And make sure to keep an eye out on RSVP and share this with your teams and your leaders. See you next week, y'all. Feel the Reaper.
You don't know it yet, but that deal you're working is about to die. He's going to kill it with a simple whisper of doubt. In the industry of sales, the industry that never sleeps, a shadow waits, watching, ready for his sacred code to be broken.
The Sales Reaper. I saw him in there. He killed that deal.
The sacred sales texts say they're called the 5 Fatalities. The Reaper uses them to kill more and more deals every single year until the entire industry is in ruin. It says we have to use the Code of Commerce to figure out how to keep deals from falling at the hands of the Reaper.
This doesn't make any sense, Harper. There's no possible way we can beat him.
We've got to get this out to the world, or he's not going to allow anyone to ever hit quota again.
Can you hear it? The whispers of deals dying. This Halloween, learn just how the Sales Reaper paralyzes prospects and turns deals to dust.